Welcome back to The Tangent. Today we have a couple of guest stars on. But today we're going to actually talk about a topic that we're all pretty interested in. There's a couple of us in here that don't play, but most everybody else does. But today I'm going to go around the room real quick. So we're bringing back Nick. Nick was on our Game of the Decade.
Yep.
And then we also have Jay.
Yeah.
She's all the way up from Texas, from what I understand, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, I got interstate visitors now. Yeah, we're big time.
And then everybody else is normal. We got Tim and Devin and Harrison and myself, James.
Yeah, I'm just a normal guy. Totally.
Yeah. This is something that me, Nick, and Tim do on a weekly or a bi-weekly now, isn't it?
Yeah.
We used to do it weekly. Now it's bi-weekly.
I currently have two groups going. I don't know when I play.
I don't know how. I don't know if I could handle that.
Well, the thing is, we're probably about to have two groups here soon.
Oh gosh.
I don't know how long the second one's gonna last. But.
Yeah. But anyway, so we are actually going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Or for us, D&D. So we're just going to short it to D&D. Everybody knows it's Dungeons and Dragons.
We don't own the rights to use the name.
Right, so
D&D.
We'll probably also expand out to some other games because some
of
us have played a lot of other games.
There's a lot of other RPG style tabletop RPG games where actually physically have to roll dice.
You guys ever play Sorry?
Sorry is one of my favorite board games. But we're gonna quickly go around the room.
You have to pretend like you're actually sorry.
Yeah.
We're gonna quickly go around the room and kind of discuss where whoever actually plays got started playing. I'm gonna go ahead and start with Tim. And like the first time he got into playing, maybe his first group that he got into, or
okay, so I went over this with Nick earlier. The beginnings for me in D&D is actually really simple, because my first game was with a well-established group, but someone who had never DM'd before was DMing, and he was running a pre-made adventure. That campaign lasted like 5 sessions. My character was nothing special. It was just like a basic fighter. And
the character most people start with is a fighter or barbarian.
Right, and it did not go beyond that. But everything after that was just a crazy roller coaster. But the beginnings was just back in the 3.5 days. It was what I say, it was like probably 04 or 05.
Well, I mean,
so 3.5 had been out for a year or two.
First couple sessions always is just learning to play, learning the rules, learning how to build a character.
So somebody who doesn't play, what's 3.5?
Okay, so you have the different editions of Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay, I figured.
And I had to go over this with James yesterday because we were trying to figure out when he started.
I'm old.
So James started back in OD&D, which is, you can call it like 0 edition or original.
He's
or
a lifer.
Right, so that was back when, before you had either basic or advanced Dungeons and Dragons. That was like right after Chainmail, which is the first technical edition of D&D.
Okay.
So you have OD&D, then you go into AD&D, which splits off from basic, and AD&D is what they call first edition.
Okay.
And then you have second edition, which is probably what they're playing in like Stranger Things.
Right.
And then third came out in 2000.
Yep.
And then 3.5 was the updated version of third edition that came out in 03.
Gotcha.
And then you had 4th edition and 5th edition is where we're at.
Yeah, we're at 5. We call it 5e.
Yeah.
And when you say 5e to any D&D player, everybody knows what it is.
It's not officially called 5e. It's just called Dungeons and Dragons, but everyone calls it 5e because
officially recognized. But...
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, you started, I guess, like you said, in 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
So how old were you?
I was 16, I think.
Okay.
15 or 16, something like that.
Wow, I thought you started later than that. But no, I guess that makes sense because you were still in high school.
Yeah, it was me and Polak jumped into Jamie and their group.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember. I sat in on a session with you guys once when you guys had it up over here.
Yeah, when Jamie and his family moved out here.
Okay. Devin doesn't play. He's seen us play. He sat in through a couple of sessions while we
played some role-playing dice games with you guys.
He played one of those zombie one-shots that we played around the bonfire.
And then I think I sat through you guys playing Vampire the Masquerade a couple of times.
Was that when Huck decided to shoot the fire extinguisher?
You were here when he shot the fire extinguisher.
I was here when he shot the fire extinguisher, and now we're all gonna shit on Huck because all of us were like, "What the hell, dude?"
So, Harrison doesn't play.
I know nothing.
And you know nothing about it.
I made a character.
All right.
That was about it.
Okay, so Nick is a big player. He's been playing since what, 3.5?
I'm actually not sure because I started playing in 2003.
Okay.
But I don't know whether I started on 3 or 3.5 because that was when 3.5.
Yeah, it might have been in the waning days of 3.0, or it might have been in the dawn of 3.5.
But honestly, my interest started when I was in high school. So long story short, my dad married a woman. We moved into her house. I took over her oldest son's bedroom when he went off to college. In his bedroom was this giant bookshelf of books, which had an entire compendium of a game called Rift or Rifts.
Oh, Rifts.
Rifts, yeah.
Such a good game.
He had a huge compendium of these books, and I was a big reader back in high school, and I just started looking through them like encyclopedias and found like how to make characters and how to run combat and everything.
Wow.
And
Rifts has so many books.
And being, you know, an anti-social nerdy kid when I was in high school, I didn't have any people to try to play this game with. So I sat in my room by myself up till 4 o'clock in the morning making characters and running mock battles and everything. And that was how I got my interest into tabletop gaming in general.
Wow.
And then after my first year of college, I lived with a couple of guys in Saginaw, Michigan. One of them was really big into D&D. He actually DM'd groups. So he ran a solo, quote-unquote, campaign. It was literally only 2 sessions of just me by myself in this town. Like, I made a rogue. I wanted to be this cool, sneaky dude who, like, cheated at cards and pickpocketed everything. And
A one-on-one campaign?
Yep.
Those can actually be really fun.
Well, I remember thinking I was all that and a bag of chips with my rogue and failing roll after roll after roll.
That sounds like me.
So like, I guess the apex of this story came when I was trying to clean up my mess in the back room of a tavern, carrying a dead body out the back way while still having the bloody dagger like in my belt loop or whatever, and like there being a guard out there saying, "Oh, we were just, you know, coming to a commotion, and now we see you carrying a dead body with a bloody knife. How you doing, sir?" And so that was my failure of the first character.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, Jay, you said you played just periodically, you know?
Yeah, it was like, I want to say 2 summers ago, my cousins were like, "Oh, have you ever played this?" I was like, "No," and they're like, "Neither have we, let's go get it." So that's basically how it happened. We just went to a little card shop that had it.
Okay.
And then we got a book, and that same night my cousin went on and started mapping out on the computer like how to exactly we would do it, and we ended up playing for like 5 hours for the first day.
That ain't bad. That's a good session, a 5-hour session. I mean, I think we run 3-4 hour sessions, and we kind of get bored.
Don't get me wrong. I miss the old Jamie sessions where we would start at like 11 o'clock in the morning and go until midnight.
Oh Jesus!
Like,
and it was perfect because
I would be okay with doing sessions like that. I mean,
I'd be okay with that if we could stay focused as a group, but we don't.
Right. I was about to say it has nothing to do with us.
If we could stay wrangled, that would be great.
Well, that
but
now
the other good thing is because they were so long, if we would get de-wrangled, you know, we had a lot of time to get back on track.
That's fair.
So for me, I'm the oldest in the group. So I'm still the oldest. I have not found anybody older than me to join the group.
We can't have anybody on the group.
But
James
I started
has to be
back
sensei.
when the original D&D came out. So I had a friend who lived 2 doors down from my grandmother. Now, growing up, we traveled a lot because my dad was in the Air Force. But every time we came home, I would go and hang out with this friend down the street, and we would go do whatever. He was not much of an outdoorsy, but my family was very wanting to play sports and stuff like that. But I kind of was, well, let's just do something because all my friends I left in a different state or a different country, you know, let's go do something. So he introduced me to the original Dungeons and Dragons. Man, some of that stuff, the rules, I was younger. I was probably like 9 or 10. And like just trying to remember these rules and like how things worked, and I'm just like, I was lost. So he took the system and kind of dumbed it down for me and made it a very basic, straightforward system. And we did a couple things we brought in a couple other his friends over, and we'd play a game or two, and they were real literal one shots, like just going through a dungeon, kill some stuff, come out, we were done. But he'd always keep the characters that I would build so that next time I came over, we could continue with that character and keep building that one character. I had a character from the original D&D that made it to 12 or 13 level.
You're honestly making me think of the old Hercules TV show with Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah.
How you never really know what goes on between the episodes, but then you come back and you're like, all right, adventure time, and then you
Right.
go, and then you leave.
Right. But later on, he got into some other things, other RPG tabletop stuff that he introduced
the
me
one
to.
you always talked about when I was a kid was the superhero RPGs.
Yeah,
like
so
Marvel and DC and.
Well, there was a couple different ones. So there was an actual superhero one where you created your own superpowers, and you had to buy them with certain points depending on how you rolled, so you could have certain powers.
Yeah.
That one was kind of fun, but it was very limited on what you could do superpower wise.
Yeah.
But later on, now Marvel created these trading cards just like baseball cards, but they were Marvel Universe cards, so they had a couple different series, but on the back of those cards were like stats for that particular Marvel character. Well, they
Yeah.
also created an RPG by using those stats. So they created books, and we actually played a couple different campaigns with Marvel characters in an RPG setting, which was really fun because I played as Thunderstrike.
Oh,
And
nice.
Thunderstrike was the guy, he took over Thor's hammer for a minute, and then he ended up getting his own.
Right. because
So
Thor
he
did
had
that.
like basically all the powers of Thor, but not being Thor.
Mm.
So I was like, hey, I could hit things with a hammer and fly and cut, tear space so I can jump from place to place with this hammer. I was badass.
But Nick talking earlier about Rifts reminds me. Do you recall if he only had Rifts books or if he had any of the other games that Palladium made?
I can't say for sure. Rifts was the first one that I grabbed,
Okay.
so everything that had the title Rifts on it was sitting next to my bed, and I read religiously.
So Palladium made a bunch of games that all could go together, and that was the big thing about Palladium. So Rifts was their big center core thing that brought everything together. And, obviously you read Rifts. So Rifts' whole central thing was the world has a bunch of portals, all these portals go to different worlds, and they built a bunch of other RPGs that you could get to. Nightbane was a world of, it was our world, but the sun got blotted out. So that was a thing.
Yeah, I remember seeing a
Um,
book of like lots of different worlds that
Yeah.
mentioned like it would be a few chapters on one world, a few chapters on another world.
But there were some other more traditional ones like Palladium Fantasy, which was basically their version of D&D. Wormwood, which was more of like a weird steampunky magic.
There was definitely a Wormwood book there. I remember
Yeah,
that one.
and that one got lumped in with Rifts a lot. Ninjas and Super Spies, that one's fun.
Oh yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Weirdness. They actually licensed TMNT and made an RPG out of it. You could combine all of these things. There was they showed me a book, Jamie and all them, because they had all the Rifts books too. They showed me a deep dive into one of these books. There was rules for like super violent Santa Claus, like he was like this.
You had my attention at Super Violent.
Right. So he was just this uber powered high level malevolent Santa that came from one of the random worlds that you could get to.
Malevolent Santa.
Yeah.
Sounds like
Okay.
a metal band.
Well, that reminds me of a really bad B movie I saw where.
The B movie?
Nope, not the B movie. Nope. It was called Santa's Slay, SLAY. Goldberg like the wrestler Goldberg
Bill Goldberg,
played
okay.
the Santa Claus in this movie.
Oh.
And Santa Claus himself was actually a demon that needs to get like banished every 1,000 years, or else he just like goes on a killing spree once a year. And the way to banish him is via a curling match.
And you were generous enough to give this a B rating?
It had Goldberg in it.
So,
What?
I'm
What
a
is
wrestling fan
What is
and I'm not sold.
I mean,
What is this
But
called?
aren't you also a curling fan?
Santa's
Totes.
Sleigh, S-L-A-Y, Santa's Sleigh. Now, you have to remember, this is, of course, in the same vein of, what was it, Sharknado, where it's a bad movie that knows
On
it's a bad
purpose.
movie.
That sounds
Yeah,
so
it's a
cheesy.
self-aware
It is.
bad movie.
Santa's sleigh.
But yeah, so there's a lot of weird systems out there talking about
There
those
are,
same
and
things.
and you talking about Palladium and James talking about OD&D and its weird rules.
I just remembered in one of the ones that he made me play was Shadowrun.
Shadowrun is
It's interesting.
weird because you can get into old Shadowrun, which is the D6 system, which you only use D6s.
Right,
Kind of like how Vampire only uses D10s.
right.
The D6 system is very strange.
Yep.
What does that mean?
Dice? A
Dice.
D6,
Dice,
yes.
yes.
I thought
Yes.
so.
A
but I
D6
wasn't
is
sure.
a 6-sided die like you use in Monopoly.
Yeah.
Figured. Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, so if he says a D6 system, that's all you use is D6. Now in D&D,
It's a D20 system, but you use other dice besides D20.
yes, depending upon what things do.
It's just considered a D20 system because that's your
But-
primary. I want to do a thing. I'm going to roll a D20 to see if I can.
But
Do I
there
wanna
are a
do
lot of
thing?
different
Okay.
versions of D20 systems because
Mhm.
Palladium is technically a D20 system,
Okay.
but it has a lot of different rules that are more like AD&D and OD&D, like the percentages for skills and things.
Gotcha.
So I don't know anything, so I'm just gonna ask. Like, so the dice are like effectively like RNG in like video games.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
like-
there are a lot of video games, like especially the D&D video games, where they'll use the dice as the basis for their RNG. So, like, if you're playing like Neverwinter Nights and you have a greatsword, when you swing, you have your damage is going to be between 2 and 12 as your base, plus whatever your mods are in the actual game, just like it is in D&D when you actually play.
Good example of one character to another. Somebody who is, say, really good at playing cards, but not so good at climbing a wall. If you're sitting there and you're trying to cheat at cards, this would be a relatively hard thing. I'd give it a DC, which is basically a dice challenge. You're trying to hit something that's, we're going to say, a difficulty of an 18. You're only rolling a D20. Well, since you're good at doing this already, let's say you have a plus 10 to it. So you only have to roll a 7 on a 20-sided die. Make sense? But this character who's also trying to climb the same a wall, well, same DC, 17, but he's not very good at climbing walls. He only gets a plus 2. You're rolling the same die, you're trying to hit the same number, but your character's skills depend on your plus.
Wait, so you have to hit a specific number or just up to a specific number?
That number or higher.
Yeah, a number or higher versus percentile systems where you have to hit a number or lower.
Now you're just getting complicated.
I am.
I think you-
And I was thinking throughout this conversation, maybe we should go over like character generation.
No, we're not teaching people how to play D&D. We're just talking about
We're just going to talk about...
Whoa.
Well, I
We're
was
kinda-
gonna
we're kind
ask
of teaching Harrison.
I
how to
don't
play.
know what it,
I was
like,
gonna ask you guys, like, not a way of talking about character building necessarily to teach, but just like you guys have played D&D a lot. What's your favorite kind of character?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
That's a very good question. Truthfully,
I kind of want to know, like, because you've talked about everybody kind of starts with like a fighter-based character. Like, what are the advantages and
that's not
disadvantages
even-
and whatnot?
that's
of
not even
each
actually
character?
true.
And why
I've
is it your
seen
favorite?
Well,
I've seen people
You've
start
seen
with
it,
monks.
Just
I've seen
because
people
you've
start
seen
with
it doesn't
wizards.
mean it's not more common or less common.
Fighter is definitely the most common.
Exactly.
yes.
Yeah.
Truthfully, if I was going to really get into it, I'd still rather be a fighter because I like fighting face to face.
Mhm.
I love running into the fray and just swinging that damn sword at things.
Why complicate things with strategy, right?
Right. What the hell? I mean, I have other people to do things for me around me half the time if I do play a fighter.
So
now,
do you just
that
enjoy the
was-
style, or do you enjoy, like, I mean, each player has their own advantages and stuff,
so the two DMs in the room know me well enough to know that the characters that I tend to play are very
Indeed.
lawful good.
Dudley do right.
He, He's.
So,
I've never. I don't
that
think
much I know about him too.
I don't think
and
I've
I'm
ever
not a
seen.
DM.
I don't think I've ever seen James actually play a paladin, but he plays a paladin in every game.
I have played a paladin.
We once played a one shot.
Yeah, I don't
with
think
James.
I've played. I've played or DM'd with James as a paladin.
We once played a one shot with James where another friend of ours was DMing because he wanted to try it out, and he made this little scenario where we are all prisoners in a maximum security prison
yeah.
trying to escape during a hurricane. He gave us all characters. I was an arsonist. James got this like life murderer, like badass murderer person, and we're all trying to escape and get out. But we're also really bad people because we're in this jail or whatever. And he still does this, I'm going to hang back and make sure everybody gets out safe. And we're yelling at him, go, James, you're a convicted murderer.
Yeah, he was a serial killer.
That was actually based off of the serial killer from I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
think-
because
Yeah.
the characters in that game were either based off of fictional
Mine was the
criminals.
only fictional.
or-
Mine was the only fictional.
I,
Yeah,
think,
his
I,
was
I
the
thought
only
we found one other one that was not quite real.
Okay, well, let me rephrase then. His was the only knowingly fictional. I think we did find one more that Charles, our DM, didn't realize was a fictional character.
Right. But I can't remember who the hell I played. It was like a hacker or something.
I
Like
don't
a
know.
real life hacker. But
But yeah, so long story long, doesn't matter what he's playing, how he plays it is always the same.
Pretty much.
yeah.
And I'm trying.
Even in
So-
the limited experience I've had with role playing, that's definitely what I experienced. around
I've been
this
trying
character.
to.
Actually,
to,
I remember a vampire game where he played another assassin. He outright played an Assamite assassin that was for hire, and he spent a lot of time protecting people.
We're not knocking you, James. We just know how you play.
It's great.
I'm kind of curious, like, also, by the way, I'm kind of interested in playing this now. But, so,
You got
the
James done.
DM, how much power do they have? Like, what do they do? I know, like,
The D-
Tim,
dungeon-
you want to take this or you want me to?
DMs technically have all of the power, but different DMs have different opinions on how the DM is supposed to do things. Like, in my opinion, the DM their job is to make sure everyone's having a good time. So, what I do when I DM is I basically go, I tell everyone what happens when they interact with the world. And I do my best to make everything fair and make sure everyone has options to go around and do whatever they want, and that they have a good time.
I think that's the concrete for every decent DM right there.
That's what DMs, in my opinion, are supposed to do. Nick pretty much agrees with me. We have differences of basically how we say the world reacts, but I think that's our big differences
Well, yeah,
as
we,
DMs.
we both build our houses different ways for sure, but
Yeah.
like the concrete is
the,
we
fo-
want
the
to make,
foundation is the same.
we want to make sure everybody's having a good time.
Yeah.
We're trying to make sure everything is fair. We want to keep things flowing.
And you got to keep everybody
Yeah, everybody has to stay engaged.
engaged.
For
That's
sure.
what I'm looking. Yeah.
Yeah, but the big difference, actually, let me stop talking about DMing for a second. Go back to your question. How much power? They literally have enough power to change the rules of the game.
Yes.
Like if the rules say this could work, a DM could just go shrug. It's better if it doesn't work that way. I'm gonna change it so that it does not work that way.
So especially
do
in fifth edition, the rules are if the DM doesn't know the concrete rule, they can just make up whatever rule they want just to get through the situation.
Okay.
Which I'm not gonna lie is a strong backbone of my DMing style.
Yeah, and
I
the
would,
thing-
ra-
and the
I would
thing
rather
is-
just I would rather just keep moving
Yeah.
than have to look it up or have to hem haw about rules. I
Right.
want to just keep
Yeah.
moving. So and that's my style.
Okay. So, do you guys determine, like, what you have to roll for certain actions?
Yeah.
You
to,
get
to
to
a,
pick the
to
number?
a degree. To a
Yeah.
degree. There are guidelines. So earlier I was talking about DCs for doing something. There are guidelines outlined in like the player's handbook and the DMG, the Dungeon Master's Guide, that says, hey, if your players are trying to do something easy, it's generally a 10. If it's moderate, it's generally a 15. And if you want to do something hard or even harder, it's generally a 20 to 25 to 30.
Yeah.
But you can also modify it based on the situation. I'm going to go back to the wall climbing scenario. Obviously, it was kind of a hard wall with a DC 17 that I set before. I made it a little harder because in my head it's raining, so it's going to be slippery. It's not just
Yeah.
going to be a 15, so it's going to be a little bit harder than that.
And the thing is, like, there are rules for things that are lower DC, like, and they give you, like, if something is like a DC 5, you might not even have your player roll because DC 5 is pretty much like, as long as there's nothing else going on, you can just
Yeah.
assume they succeed.
And a lot of the
Like-
times with the bonuses of the characters, they would nail that 5 without even rolling.
Yeah.
Because if they have a bonus of 6 and the DC is 5,
What's the
right,
point?
then there's
what's
no
the point? Because they've
So,
already made the successful
You
roll
can have a
without rolling.
bonus you can get a number bonus on your rolls.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your
So
character
your
stats.
your your
Character
stats can give
stats.
you bonuses to rolls. Having proficiency in the right skills can give you bonuses to rolls.
Yep, whatever,
So
whatever, your,
conditional-
whatever, your,
conditional
building a
things
character.
can-
whatever your character is good at, those things will be easier.
So
for
those
you to
are a bunch of added skills. For those of you guys who are listening on the podcast, I'm showing him a character sheet. Those are some added skills that you get bonuses on. That's just the character I'm using in a current campaign. So in certain things that you would need to do, like acrobatics, if you want to do a small wall run and a backflip, I would get my acrobatics bonus to that roll. So as a wall run and a backflip, a DC 15 would probably be...
If you're not wearing any armor, you want to do a wall run and a backflip on that, I'd say 15 for the wall run, 18 for both.
Right. So then I would get my acrobatics bonus
So you
to
only
that
need to
roll
roll
okay.
a 13.
I would only need to roll a
If you can
13
nail
or
the
higher.
first part, the second one's just easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was thinking it depends on how far you want to go up the wall, versus how good of a running start did you have? Because you could use the jump rolls to help modify.
Again, scenario dependent.
Right.
I was actually totally imagining Ninja Gaiden wall run,
Mhm.
where he's actually running along a wall to like bypass a gap.
Right. And that's
Okay,
what I was
and
thinking.
I was thinking just running straight at a wall and just doing a run and backflip
That's
to
what I
like
was
maybe
imagining.
try and get from.
Oh yeah, I'd give that a 15 max.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was thinking 15 because like if there's someone in front of you and you can't get by them, maybe you want to turn around, run up the wall, and do
Gotcha.
a backflip and get to the other side of them.
Yeah.
Maybe that helps.
Context is everything.
I don't
Yeah.
know,
Right,
in real life,
absolutely.
I'd probably give that a 50.
But
so
But
fun
if
fact-
you're a light and agile dude like this guy over here, I don't doubt that he could maybe
so
do like
I think he could do
like a
it.
small like backflip, like a wall
To
backflip.
get you-
work
to
out
get
through
you
it, guys.
started-
I'm not as young
to
as
get
I
you
used to
started
be.
into an RPG style, they do make board games out there that are built like almost like a dungeon dive, just to give you an idea. They get pre-made characters. There's no real DM.
Okay, so there is 4th edition. What was Ravenloft?
Ravenloft originally came out in 2nd edition.
Latest Ravenloft.
Latest
Board game.
Ravenloft is 5e. Oh, the board game
Yes,
Ravenloft.
I think it's 4th edition, right?
I think I think they might have actually come out with the 5th edition one.
Okay, so regardless of edition, shouldn't have gotten sidetracked on that. They make actual Wizards of the Coast board games that are just pre-packaged Dungeons and Dragons adventures. There are boards in there that are just character sheets that are super fancy and glossy and everything. And they have a book just for dungeon masters to run the game. It is a pre-packaged adventure with characters, with storyline, with direction for every player, with maps, little minis.
So-
it is 100% everything you need to
So for
play
the
a D&D campaign.
the very
What was that
inexperienced people
Ravenloft. And they're-
could jump in and get a feel of what it's like to play an RPG
Mhm.
without having to go through the excess
Building
reading and building and
distractions.
having the DM trying to figure out a campaign for you, to give you just a taste. And if you
Mhm.
enjoy it, continue playing a couple of those adventures and then start thinking of your own.
Yep. Yeah, it's no more complicated than just a complex board game.
So
Yeah.
then, like, with just playing, like, regular D&D, like, with a Dungeon Master and stuff,
Mhm.
so if you're playing, do you need to necessarily know the rules?
If you are just a character, I would say it is incredibly helpful to at least know the rules of what you want to do.
Yes.
For
your
example, you
character.
need to know the rules of how to attack. You need to know the rules of what can I do on a standard action, of a move action, of a bonus action, and how to use a reaction. These are 4 things you could learn in 10 minutes of looking at a book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, just thinking of what you want to do, those are things that you need to know how to do.
And
So
having-
on the first
having
the
an
first
idea
couple,
having an idea of what dice you need to roll helps too.
Yeah.
the first couple of chapters of that player's handbook that Tim has in his hands or on his lap, but it tells you a lot of that stuff. So
Yep.
just reading the first couple chapters gives you the basis of everything you need. The rest of that handbook is literally characters.
Character customization options,
um,
like what
race,
class you want, what race you
class.
Mm-hmm.
If you end up with a spellcaster, towards the back of the book they have spells.
want. Yeah, a full third of this book is spells.
Yeah.
So, Can you essentially do any kind of action, but whatever you want to do is determined? Like, can a dungeon master just say no? You can't do that.
No. Okay.
Yes.
Basically, that's what-
They can,
They
but
can.
it will
It's bad
depend.
DMing. It's bad DMing to say no.
No,
Yeah, our favorite line.
That is something I
wouldn't
disagree
advise
with.
it,
There are
but-
occasions where it's perfectly reasonable to say no.
But
I
our-
prefer. You can certainly try.
Yeah, that's
so
that's
what
I
our
heard you
big.
say that so many
So-
times just from sitting in on
the
a
thing
session.
the thing is, I could tell someone they can try, but depending on what it is they're actually trying to do, it might be impossible to succeed.
Oh, absolutely. But you're
Yeah.
not telling the character no. That's the important thing.
Could
But
you, like,
I will just for the sake of them, inform them if it is impossible to succeed,
Okay.
which is basically me saying no.
will you
Okay.
try to like give them like a 1 out of 20 chance?
No, sometimes 1 in 20 is too high of a chance. Like, for example, you are locked in a jail cell. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to just front kick my way through the brick wall. You're not going to have a 5% chance to do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like I wish to
0.05
jump off of this skyscraper and fly away.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. You don't have wings. You don't have magic. You don't have a gyrocopter.
Yeah.
You don't have
Yeah.
nothing.
You explain all of these
There's
things.
there's a 0% chance of you succeeding
You
in this
explain all the
scenario.
things. You explain all these things to the player. Sure, you're like,
And no
uh,
umbrella.
you
No
don't
umbrella
have all
to
these
be the
things.
Mary
You
Poppins.
have no
Yeah.
way to lock
Mary
yourself after
Poppins,
jumping.
y'all.
So,
But I'm not going to say you can't try.
if you can't wait, but then if you try, do you give them any amount of chance? Like how?
Sometimes no. You have to let the players know, sometimes subtly, sometimes not so subtly, that they bring apart their own doom sometimes. You give
Yeah.
them warning signs. You
If you-
give them options.
If you basically inform them that there's a 0% chance they will succeed and they try anyway, they have to deal with the result of what happened.
Mhm.
Sometimes it gets them killed. Sometimes it gets them injured. Sometimes it gets them captured. You know, sometimes it's just like the trying to kick open a wall thing.
Yep.
Like maybe you stubbed your toe. Maybe the consequence is that simple, but
Okay.
you're gonna have to deal with that
Yeah.
consequence.
And you're
And
still
to
gonna
just
fail.
predicate a further question from you, if somebody's character dies, that character is then written out of the entire story, because remember, the DM is writing the story as this campaign goes on. Their character is written out, then that player makes a brand new character, and the DM comes up with a way to get that new character into the story.
I prefer to have the players
Okay.
figure out how they can get themselves into the story, but that's
Again, different houses.
Okay.
I prefer to. Sometimes I'll insert them because there's no way I'm gonna have to make something.
I remember-
I would say
So-
what happened in our recent campaign
Ah!
where Dustin's character dies in the very first combat he gets into.
Yeah,
We didn't even know his character, but he happened to be quote unquote wandering by, came in to save us, and then died mid combat. We didn't even know his
Right.
name.
I didn't. Yeah, none of us knew his name.
yeah.
So he had to rebuild a character, but he had happened to have a character
Yeah,
on standby.
I knew his character's whole background and everything because we had discussed it. So he just decided to play one of the other people in that character's background. So that was an easy insert. That
Yeah.
was
Well,
super simple.
D&D, I was gonna say veterans. It's more fanatics. D&D fanatics just have characters on like standby to go.
Yeah. And it-
Because
and a
all we
lot
do
of-
is make characters.
A lot of
That's
the
true. I have like 30 characters on standby right
A
now.
lot of the
and I'm not
people,
even
like-
in a game.
a lot of the people like Tim and Nick that are in the room, they put really deep emphasis on the backgrounds of their characters for a reason, just in case something happens.
Yeah, dungeon masters who are any kind of decent at their job love good backstories because it gives us something to do with your character.
Yeah.
Does the DM get to play as a character?
The DM plays as the world.
Oh yeah.
Well,
now,
we
again,
are every NPC.
different house that's neither me or Tim's. I played with a DM who would put himself into every campaign.
Oh, DMPCs.
Yes, and I'm not going to say that's good or bad.
It can be
It
be fine.
I
Yeah,
feel
it can
like
be
that
terrible.
could be biased. like,
Exactly.
heavily.
But every single time we would have a campaign that he would have an NPC that was just with us all the time. That NPC would generally be more powerful than the rest of the group. Now, this is me saying it in a bad way. That NPC would always be more powerful than the rest of the group. He would always be more knowledgeable than the rest of the group. And he'd be part of the group. And it would be the DM playing it.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of different styles for DM PCs. Like my buddy Justin, who I talk about a lot when it comes to RPGs and like D&D and Mutants and Masterminds and stuff. And Vampire, he loves Vampire. But his
Vampire's
style,
a fun game.
yeah. But his style for DM PCing will change based on what kind of game he's in and what the players are doing. So I've seen him do DM PCs where like if he has 2 players in his game, right? It's him and 2 other people, and he might DM PC a rotating cast of characters. Like there might be a cleric who's really bad at combat that can help them out a little bit, or a druid that knows the forest a bit. And then,
A 2-person party needs a DMPC sometimes.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
because you're
So
not
he-
always going to get what you need out of
I-
it too.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that campaign because we basically we had a network of friends to call upon, and it was just a series of DMPCs.
Okay, so rolling into a different segment here, we're gonna like the type of characters you need in a good campaign.
Well, hold on now.
I don't think
Go-
we ever
go-
answered the original
You guys
question
did
of
not
what kind of...
complete the round that
Yeah.
I asked like 40 minutes ago.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
You answered, but
I don't think anybody else did.
favorite character style.
Oh, right.
To
Yeah.
go with
Favorite
for
styles of
PvP.
characters.
Try
Right.
not to make it a whole tangent this time.
I guess that was a tangent. Yeah.
It's a huge.
So,
tangent.
Nick,
But it was
what's your
good
favorite
stuff.
style of
Good
character to play?
content, guys.
It's really hard to say. I'll go on just a little. I don't know, whatever. So I started off really liking stealthy characters, as my little story about my starting thief /
Yeah.
rogue was. Then I realized they're not as good at low levels as I wanted them to be. I didn't realize I wanted a 15th level rogue when I started playing D&D. But then after I realized that didn't work the way I wanted it to, I started playing barbarians. I was like, okay, well then I'm just going to run up in somebody's face and hit them with an axe. And that seemed to work really well. So I played a couple of those and I enjoyed that. Then I really got into MMO RPGs on my computer, and I liked healing in that. So then I got into like clerics and whatnot in D&D, and I got super bored because I took stuff like Pacifist from 4th edition, which was a feat that said, hey, you can heal for a whole lot more, but you're not allowed to do any damage, and if you do, you suffer repercussions. So I was like, okay, so I don't like healing, and now that I've played a large array of barbarians, I've played fighters, I've played thieves, I've yet to play monk, I've played sorcerers and warlocks. I honestly think my favorite of all of them is just back to a simple hit you in the face with an axe.
So first of all, I approve of the word array. That was great. That was great. With expertise.
I currently have a character that I have been avoiding for a while. That's a wizard. Like an actual wizard, I felt was a little too complicated in like the 3.5 days and a little too dumb in the 4th edition days.
So you have that character on standby.
I have that character on standby. It's not just your like standard battlefield control wizard. He's specifically a denial wizard. Like he is a cast hold person on enemies. He casts counterspell. He casts dispel magic. He does stuff like sends enemies away and makes them go through a maze before they're able to come back in the fight.
He's what Treant Monk refers to as God Wizard.
Okay.
He controls the battlefield and lets all the non-gods feel like they won the battle.
So
Yeah, it's a control wizard is the character I want to play now, and I feel like I'm going to enjoy it. I just haven't had a chance to.
Okay.
So are there like experience points and levels for characters?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, everything you do gains you experience points, whether you're talking to somebody out on the street trying to get information, or you're kicking a dire rat in the face trying to get it out of like a tavern's basement or something. Everything you do gets you experience
And
points.
so how do stat gains work at level up?
So when you make your character, there's lots of different ways to make your initial attributes. I'm not going to go into those ways, but you have your initial attributes. Every 4 levels on almost every character, you can gain stat bonuses at like 2 stat points, basically.
Do you get to just choose, or
Yeah, you can choose. You can put 2 of them into 1. You can put 1 of them into 2. There's soft caps. There's hard caps. I'm not going to go into those
Yeah.
details.
okay?
But the simple answer is every 4 levels you get 2 points.
How do you keep track of how the characters level up? Is that like at the DM's
character sheet.
discretion?
When you say how they level up,
Like how do
Like,
they get
do you
experience?
write-
how
you
do
write
you
down
keep
the
track of
experience?
how much
the
experience
DM
they
the
get?
DM awards you experience, or
Okay.
depending on DM style, some DMs will award you experience for things, or some DMs will just do a like milestone.
Mhm.
So like they think you've done enough, go ahead and just level up everybody.
Okay.
So instead of tracking experience, you would just move your experience up to the next threshold, and you would level.
Okay.
I
How do you
once
guys
ran a
tend to do it?
campaign where every
Hmm?
major story point.
I was wondering how you guys tend to do it.
Yeah, what's your guys'? Well, he just kind of said what
Well,
his.
that,
is.
that was what I did once. Is I ran a campaign where every major storyline progression I awarded a level. Like, okay, you guys finished this challenge. Now you got into the next level. You're going to get to a harder challenge. I don't think I liked that as much.
Okay.
It depends. It depends on the campaign, because certain kinds of stories I will do milestone, and certain kinds of stories I will do experience. This newest game, you know, Nick and James can tell you, I screwed up the experience for the first session because
Really bad.
I hadn't done such a low level
Encounter?
game in like ever in 5th edition. I don't think.
Okay.
I've done first level games in 3.5, not in 5th edition. I accidentally multiplied one thing too many times. Oh, no, I didn't divide it.
Yeah, I think you gave us.
I multiplied it once too many times and didn't divide it, and as a result, everyone went from first level to 3rd level.
You gave us close
So-
to like 8 to 10 times too much XP.
Right.
Yep.
So
We're on a level.
So
hold
they're
for a
on
little while.
experience hiatus. I am tracking their experience until they get to the proper point where their characters are currently, and then they'll start gaining experience again.
Gotcha.
So yeah, we're on a level hold at the moment.
Okay, so
we're gonna.
Can you be
Well,
an
you
I-
like the fighter,
Yeah,
the barbarian?
I'm gonna go ahead and
Like-
say how much I like hitting people in the face with an axe.
Huh?
And I have not heard from Jay like at all during this entire time. So
Well,
what do you
because I
heard?
was ready to ask you guys, since you guys have actually played this for so long, what are the funniest moments? Because I mean, there has to be little blooper parts in between.
I have a story prepared for this, but I still want to hear you answer this. What do you like to play, Jay?
Well, I was a mage. I love the whole idea of spells and stuff, but
You
Like-
see,
Well,
first time wizards.
Well, here's the thing though. Does she
I
like hitting
feel
people
like
with
I would-
fireball, or does she like counterspelling?
I used to do counter spelling, but because of the game that I play now, I love the idea of fire.
Okay.
Because I was a pyromancer in the game, and that's how I started.
Nice.
So I played pyromancer for like months and months and months before I switched to berserker. Well, I tried healer, and I realized I would never be a healer in any game. And
Yeah, they're pretty boring.
yeah, but right now I'm a paladin, and I kind of am interested in the whole idea of a paladin in like D&D because I've never tried that. But yeah,
Did you just recently start your paladin?
a while back.
Okay.
So
I love paladins.
Paladins are fun, but the thing about paladins is that if you
Tell us about paladins, James.
Yes, please.
True paladin.
they are uber powerful when it comes to hitting very evil things. So if you're up
They're
against
very
things-
powerful when it comes to hitting things.
Yeah, they're one of the best nukers in the game.
So they have
Yeah.
these things called smites, and if you call, I'm gonna use a smite, man, that sucker, you just might as well bring your whole dice bag over and dump it out and say that's the damage because
at
that's
relatively,
pretty much
at relatively early levels, you can hit 3 smites per turn.
yes.
Like, and each smite is a handful of dice.
It's
again.
literally a handful of dice on top of your actual. So you're swinging with a sword. So a long sword's what 1d8.
Longsword is 1d8 if you're using it in one hand.
Okay,
which-
so longsword is 1d8. So you get your 1d8 damage plus your bonus damage for your strength modifier, and then you get on top of that this smite damage. So you're rolling a d8 and smite damage, which is normally like 3d6
no,
depending.
it's 1d8 plus 1d8 per spell level that you use. So if you use a first level spell, it's 2d8.
So you rolling like 3d8 for damage plus your strength modifier, and that's wicked crazy for a level 2.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage for a level 2.
I've got 2 more questions.
Yeah.
I love this. This is
Yeah,
a
Yeah,
fun
this
episode.
is the most
Well,
we've talked in an
I-
episode. I think.
I want to finish up our first round of questions, though. Tim, what do you like to play?
Yeah.
Oh God!
Oh yeah.
I was kind of hoping to avoid this.
Yeah, I
Um,
had a feeling of that.
So
I'm a DM. I'm including you.
yeah, I think everyone who's played with me realizes that my favorite character to play is the character that shows up at the first session and everyone goes, "What the hell did you just do?" And then eventually they figure out that's all I can do. That's it.
Oh, darkness.
Okay? Right? My character shows up and goes, "I am the best at this thing. Anything outside of that, not great."
Definition min-maxing, right?
Right. It is full on min-maxing. So my favorite character ever was Hyel, my half minotaur, that could go, if I can move 20 feet, I can do 400 damage this round. Other than that, I do like 10. It's crap. It's not very good.
I don't even think he's exaggerating with that 400.
No, he's not.
No, the
Because he
400
discussed
was an actual number.
Yeah.
Like it was
That's
a
absurd,
ridiculous
by the
amount of
way.
damage.
That-
Like-
yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds
Remember,
like
we were
it.
just talking about how 3d8 plus 5 was a lot of damage. And, by the way, 2d8 average, what do we got? 4 and a 5 is 9?
Yeah, it's 9.
Yeah, 9 is average for 2d8, so say 3 plus an extra 5. 20 damage, we were just saying, is a lot for a round.
Yeah.
So
He did 400.
Yeah, so my character
Okay.
was running around doing 400 damage as long as it could run at a thing.
Yeah.
So my
I mean,
DMs
it was a Minotaur.
It was a Minotaur, and my DMs were coming up with all kinds of fun ways to screw up me being able to run at things,
I would.
and I had to come up with creative ways to continue running at things, and it was fun. So like I would have to like make jump checks to allow me to jump over difficult terrain to continue running at things, or I would have to like squeeze through holes. And like
So
Well,
what kind
he
of
created a
is
character. He created a character
What
that.
kind of character?
that? Yeah.
It's a half Minotaur. You know what a Minotaur is?
Yes.
Okay, like half full thing.
Right.
And so his, I don't know what classes. I'm sure it was a combination of classes. I don't really want to get into the details.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Okay,
it was-
I'll
what-
retract the question.
What he
then.
would do is just charge and probably gore them with his horns and just
Hella
stack up
damage.
bonuses.
Hella
no, I
damage.
used a Katari resin Jovar.
Those were words?
We got hipster DM over here.
Dude, this is the definition of min-maxing.
Yes.
When you have books that are 400 pages long, and you have a pile of 7 to 10 of these books, and you pick out the 5 pages that just synergize so well together.
Yeah, that was the danger of 3.5 because they came up with like 5 to 8 books a year,
Yep.
and they just had stacks and stacks of books. And the thing is, they only balanced them against the core books. They didn't balance them against each other because it would take too long.
Yep.
So they balanced it against core, and then went, okay, it's good, and they would put it out. And then all people like me, which is a lot of people, honestly, we would look at those books and go, well, I can use this out of Complete Warrior, and I can use, this thing out of,
Sword
Book of Nine
Coast or
Swords,
something,
and I can use this thing out of Unearthed Arcana, and I can just combine all that, and suddenly I'm doing 400 damage.
So yeah, I mean I've played with Tim for a while as a character and as a DM. He does like to really just screw up a party.
That sounds like how I'd like to play.
Like
It's
my
definitely his
favorite was we
personality.
had a campaign that Tim wasn't in at first, that we had a group, me and Nick.
Which, Spire campaign or the gnomes?
The one where we ended up, the Spire campaign, the one
Okay.
where we ended up in with him. Where we ended up moving realms.
Yeah, that was
Where it ended
good
up in
one.
Ravnica.
That was-
Ravnica.
Yeah, okay.
So when Tim joined the group, Tim's character was based off of being able to fight in complete darkness.
Yeah, my character was based off of fighting alone.
No, complete darkness is not the term you want. Magical darkness is the term
Magical
you want.
darkness, which means that not even elves or people who can see in dark can see in this. They can't see in it.
Yeah.
But Tim happened to have the right abilities to see in magical darkness, so he just cast darkness, and everybody else is like, well, we can't see a damn thing, so...
And then I would kill stuff.
Yeah.
And he would kill things.
And eventually, in that campaign, my character stopped casting darkness
Yep.
to try and work together with the rest of the group.
Yep.
And then someone cast a sleet storm in the middle of a hallway and screwed up everybody. And that wasn't me. And
But those, I mean, just... Okay, so we now know the characters that we like to
Everybody
play.
that plays it often enough has answered the
I
question.
probably
I
play
agree.
rogue.
So,
So I think we had a couple of different directions we could go here. I know you had kind of a plan there, James.
it's fine. wherever it goes. I mean, that's just the way the tangent
Fair
works.
enough.
Yeah.
I just,
But-
I just,
I think
I
we
just know
were
had-
asked a question about funny moments, and Harrison had a question that I don't think he got through.
Well,
Okay, yeah.
I think we're gonna do a second episode of some of our funnier moments because I think that can take up a whole episode.
Yeah,
in
because I'm
itself.
gonna probably have to review some of mine, and we're gonna have
Because-
to
Sure, you
agree
wanna
which
cut it
ones I should tell.
between Tim and his Justin stories.
If I only told Justin stories, we'd probably need like 3 episodes.
But the rest of us have some pretty good things that we've done together. But real quick,
You want to just cut it off and do another one?
what? No, well, real quick, we're gonna discuss something just technical within the game. So, as a group or a party, we tend to like to run at least 4 players, right? Around 3 to 4 players.
I would say 4. It depends on your DM. Again,
Yeah, it depends on the DM. The game
I like-
assumes 4 players.
I like 4 to be ideal. That's me personally. As a
Okay,
DM.
so and to be a cohesive group, you tend to need certain types of players, certain types of classes.
Yeah, which
healers,
you can
tanks.
you can get around those things, but yeah,
You
the
can.
again, the game assumes 4 players. It assumes you're filling these roles. The game assumes certain things that the
Yep.
DM can make up for, or that the group itself can make up for,
Right,
by doing
and that's
certain things.
that's where I was getting at is like they expect you to have somebody that can heal, somebody that can just straight up tank and take aggro, and then you got people that just do damage from the outside.
Yep.
Or even from the inside, depending on how they want to play that
And,
character.
don't forget the wizard, because
That's the damage from the outside.
That's battlefield control.
yeah,
I consider them damage from the outside or control. I mean, it's all the same.
There are more spells than just fireball.
yeah.
Fun
You
fact.
can
Fun fact.
play a
But
wizard.
do we really need anything but fireball?
You can play a wizard that takes no damaging spells whatsoever, and you can technically be more effective than if you took fireball.
True.
God was
And that's just
God
it. Is
wizard.
that like I did try to play a cleric at one time. I did.
Mhm.
But the problem that I had is that
Oops,
I am
cleric.
so used to doing damage when I swing. What
All
the
right,
heck was
phone.
that?
That was
Dude.
my phone talking to me from my pocket.
Google
apparently.
is Lord. It tries and listens. To
Okay. So, I mean, playing a cleric isn't just about healing, it's about buffing your team.
Playing a cleric can be about a lot of different things.
But there are clerics out there that do a lot of damage. We've discussed that too.
So when it comes to cleric, the first thing I have to bring up is in 5th edition, you do not need a healer.
That is true.
Technically true, yeah.
Like the game balance wise is set so that if nobody in the party is a healer, you should be just fine with short rests, using your hit dice,
Yep.
having some incidental healing going on through and a couple of healing potions here and there.
Right.
And every balanced party, even without a dedicated healer, would be fine, to the point of if there was just a dedicated healer in 5th edition, I couldn't imagine a more boring thing to do.
Right.
But I have heard arguments that God Wizard can be a decent healer
Fair.
by doing things like giving you temporary hit points by polymorphing you,
Yep.
or by rope tricking to give you safe rests.
Yep.
You know, just things that allow you to heal or give you temporary hit points to such a degree that you don't have to heal, or so playing a healer can be beneficial if your group runs in such a way that they're not focusing on
Reckless?
reckless. If your group is reckless,
I don't know
Are
what
there
you're talking
magic
about. We're
points?
never reckless.
Are there magic points?
they don't have a magic. Okay, there is a magic point optional system,
Don't
but
get
the
into
game
that.
technically runs on a Vancian system, which is slots.
So you
Okay.
have
And then
you
just
have
like RNG to just cast it, or just you can do
No,
it?
you choose what spells you cast, and you spend a slot to cast them.
so every
Okay,
magic
like-
user has a
okay.
certain number of things they can do. So wizards have pretty much every spell in their retinue. I'm trying to remember how
I'm
to
not
do
going to
this.
get into specific casters. That would take too much time. But to put it simply, you have cantrips, which are 0 level spells. They're not even 1st level spells. They're 0 level spells, and you can cast those as much as you want. Those are very simple things, like lighting a campfire, setting off little fireworks in your hand.
Unless you're a warlock and have.
And
Eldritch
there are
Blast.
Again,
some
I'm
damaging
not getting into
cantrips.
specific things.
So like, could I
Eldritch
light like
Blast.
100 campfires under something?
Given enough time, yes.
Yeah.
Time is a factor.
It is.
For
But
example,
if you planned out and you set up like a trap or something, and an army shows up and you're just like, and I light the bonfires, and they happen to be there, they're gonna take damage. It's gonna suck.
But yeah, like you have got 0 level spells, which you can catch as much as you want, and then you've got
I
first
feel
level
like
spells,
with
which are a
that
little more
comment,
powerful.
You would be a very enjoyable character to
Right?
watch play.
Right?
And the thing is, that's the kind of
I
person
really
you
wanna
want
play.
playing your wizards. Is someone who's super creative and wants to come up with the stupid plans.
Yep.
Yeah.
At that point, you also need a DM who's amenable to it as well.
Yes. like playing an illusionist with a DM who doesn't want to sit there and imagine with you is not a fun time.
No.
I really kind of want to play this now.
Right?
Yeah.
The best thing about playing D&D for the first time is when you go, man, I really wish I could do this thing, and then the DM goes, you can do that.
Roll for
Yeah.
it.
That's the that's the best part
Yeah.
about starting to play.
Yeah.
I think
If
I
someone can mildly justify being able to do a thing to me,
Yeah, mildly even.
it's like just sure,
I
try,
think
go
I've-
for it. We'll come up with a roll.
Yeah, because as long as it's fun for everybody, the thing you're trying to keep in mind is it's not you versus the DM. It's literally just everybody sitting around trying to have a good time, and that's it.
Absolutely.
I think I actually have played, in a way, D&D. It was called Adventure, and it was like a MS-DOS kind of thing.
Okay, so Adventure was actually one of the earliest quote unquote adventure games. Like you were a little yellow dot just moving around this like maze type game. God, was it on 2600? Was it on Atari?
Might have been.
I
I
don't
think
know.
Adventure was on Atari. Too.
Yeah, it was literally
So
an
that
adventure game.
I'm pretty sure
And-
Adventure is the game that they put in Ready Player One.
It was one of the ones they used. It was like the
Yeah,
biggest one they had used
in
for
the-
an Easter egg.
Yeah, for the Easter egg, yes.
Yep.
Easter egg,
Yeah.
yes.
Is that the game you're talking about?
No, it was one where you just type, and you could essentially do anything. I think you start off like in the woods.
Oh yeah.
And,
It's one of those. It's one of those.
Text-based adventure.
Text-based
adventures.
adventures.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
those are
called
fun.
Adventure, and it was kind
Those
of.
are
I think
fun.
it's like D&D because you like type whatever you wanted to do, and you could.
Yep.
TSR, which is the company that originally made Dungeons and Dragons, did make a couple of those.
Yes, they did.
So you might have actually played one by then.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a possibility.
Agreed.
But any other technical questions before we get into story mode here?
I wanna-
Are we gonna wrap up
episode.
episode 1 at some point?
I want to hear
Like
yours.
now.
What's
Wait,
up?
What were my two questions?
Yeah.
One of them was the magic point thing because
Okay.
I already heard. I was gonna ask about HP also. That's a thing.
Yeah.
Hit points?
Hit points are a thing. Yeah.
Magic points was mostly a thing that was invented for digital gaming era.
Okay. I was just curious if
well-
it was used here because I played a lot of RPGs like video
Magic
games. But
Magic points.
Yes, digital gaming.
Magic points were in AD&D.
I believe it.
It was part of their psionics system, which it was in 3.5 too. That was their
Well,
psionics system. Was
Psionics in 3.5 is the last time Psionics was actually any good, and it was decent.
yeah, actually.
And I think it was technically in 4th and is in 5th edition, but nobody uses it.
It's not in 5th yet, technically.
Okay.
There's some web stuff that you can try, but
But with all the technical stuff out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up this episode. So with
He's
that,
like, I still got one more question.
you got one more?
yeah, and I also while we were talking, I thought of another one. But
Go for it.
Hey, so one was kind of dumb. Can you be an animal?
Well, okay. You answer the yes, I'll answer Druid.
okay. In 3.5, there were a lot of different ways you could actually pull that off. Because you could pull off with a lot of the side books. Because as a min-maxer, I read a lot of the side books. Certain first level feats that you could take to make you all kinds of random crap. So I believe there was one that you could start off as an animal of CR1 or half. So
No,
yeah,
you could start off in CR1. It had to be
Yeah.
half.
so you could start off as an animal.
Could I start like as like a cat? Like that's kind of what I mean. Or, like, can I be like a dog? Like
In 5th edition,
The
technically,
answer is yes, but the answer is also you don't want to be because they're so weak.
yeah, technically,
Do it.
could I do thing? I could do things right, and just have to do it as a dog, but it'd
Define
be very
things.
difficult.
yeah,
Like
Yeah,
there are
it's
things
like-
that dogs could do. Say like, what if I wanted to be a mage dog?
No, because
um, If you
semantic components, verbal components.
somatic components, verbal components, material components.
What that means is to cast spells, you have to do certain hand motions.
You have to do hand motions and say words.
Are there any that you don't have to?
There are.
Some, but not enough.
He's
But-
gonna make a
but
fucking
also-
dog.
But also,
I
like,
wanna
it,
know.
de- it,
I
depends,
wanna
it depends on
see.
what kind of mage you want to be. Because if you want to be a wizard, you have a spell book. You can't write without opposable thumbs.
lucky.
And you would have to have a decent
feel like
intelligence, and all
is-
animals start with an intelligence of 2.
Is
So
is
No, I'm not gonna
telekinesis
lie.
a thing?
If
I
he said this in my campaign, I'd make it happen.
Right. I feel like he's just like, okay, so you're telling me no.
Like, if
So far.
Like, if he wants to be a magical dog, I would make it happen.
Yeah.
if
I had a
wanted,
player
if
in my
you wanted
campaign
to
who
be,
wanted a pet dragon. I made it happen.
if you wanted to be a druid, druids have wild shape, and they can shape
Said I
into.
would answer druid.
Okay.
Jeez.
Go for it.
So druid is a class, much like wizard or whatever. And at second level, they gain the ability to shapeshift into any animal they've seen, up to a certain what they call challenge rating, which basically means how hard the animal would be to fight. So at level 2, you can't transform into a giant dragon, but you could transform into like a small bear or something. And you could even specialize that further to say, you know what, I really like to be different kinds of animals. So I'm going to specialize into being able to transform into more powerful animals. And you could do that up to like twice per short rest. I think short rest. You know what, let's go with long rest.
I think
You
it's-
could do that
Yeah.
up to twice per day, up to an hour at a time, being a bear, being a panther, being a manatee, being a giant eagle. Like,
Being a whale.
being a whale! Right! You don't have to be one animal when you're a druid because you're all animals when you're
So,
a druid.
but
He doesn't.
I
wanna
think
be
I
all
could. I just
animals.
keep thinking of questions. I could like keep going because I like.
Well, why
Fair
don't
enough.
we go ahead and wrap this episode up?
And then we'll play a quick session of D&D, and so Harrison knows how to play.
Right.
Yeah,
Quick session
I think what we
D&D
need to
and
do
then-
is we need to get Harrison a copy of the PHP.
I think I'm
Like-
capable of playing.
I know you
Oh,
are.
yeah,
Like,
you
you
go-
have enough
absolutely.
questions, you're definitely capable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that and you've played enough RPG video games that you get the gist of what can and can't happen in a world, and we can just mold you around a world we're in.
Honestly, I think the seed of his interest is what makes it to where he should be able to play,
So
because he's very interested, as you can tell.
with this, we're gonna wrap up, and I will say my typical talk at you later.
Alright.